We will be using Annotate a little bit today, so we do have a slide that just kind of reminds you where and how to find it if you're on your computer. Which we'll still go back over how to find it later too. Good afternoon. We still got a few minutes before we're going to start. So we're just letting people in and just giving you some stuff just to kind of watch and look at as we all sit here for a few minutes before we start right at 2 o'clock or 1 o'clock for the rest of us on the other part of the state.
How is Vidyard to use? Because I noticed that this was made with Vidyard.
Once I figured it out, I think I only went through like 4 different trials each time I did it.
Yeah.
Just getting the timing right. But I mean, it was, other than that, I mean, it was easy. The editing part, trimming the beginning and end was real easy. Choosing a thumbnail. I mean, there were definitely parts of it that were real easy.
That's good. I haven't used it at all. That's why I was curious.
Yeah, I pulled it from the trainer toolbox list. I was like,
cool.
How can I do this? Because PowerPoint wasn't working with its recording stuff. So
yeah,
like, I'll try something new.
Cool.
But the only thing I really found on it, and I think it's probably just switching from video to PowerPoint, is the fonts. Because even though the fonts seem dark enough when you show it as a PowerPoint, when it also records it, then some of them weren't. So I had to go back in and change some of the font colors to make it a little bit more bold. So that way they'd show up a little bit better on the video.
Okay. Well, that's a good safety tip.
Mm-hmm. It would have been a lot easier if I was recording sound with it, but because I didn't want to record sound, that's what it and I fought over more, because it just wanted to record sound. I'm like, no, I purposely don't want this one to have sound.
Yeah.
So we got just about 1 more minute, and then we will get started. Thank you guys for coming in this afternoon. Okay, it is officially 1 o'clock though, so just to keep everyone on track and to make sure that we're using the best use of everybody's time, we will go ahead and get started. Welcome and thank you for joining us today. We are covering the What's in the Training, title, writing quality descriptions, titles, and more. So we will be covering a few different topics today. Just a reminder for those that may be new, we are recording this and we will be uploading it into the online community within the next week or so. So we'll go over back at the end as far as how to find it, but this is just a reminder that we are recording and information from today will be available afterwards as well. Here is a brief agenda of our time together today. So I'll let you read all the details, but pretty much we will have our initial overview, some topic features, we will have a breakout room, and then our closing component of today as well. All right, and I'll pass it over to Ms. Glenna.
Okay, checking to make sure I had unmuted myself. Let's take our trainer hats off for just a second. What do you look for personally when you're choosing a training for yourself? You can type your answers in chat if you would, please. What do you look for in a training? Do you just take trainings because you have to? Okay, we've got engaging, topic that interests you. Topic, content, interest, what's most helpful for myself, good answers. Sometimes when we're taking trainings, we're looking for specific trainings to meet specific needs. Usually when you're looking for a training, what you see first is the title. The title will either draw you in or will actually push you away to kind of skip over it and look at other things. And Krista added a topic that hasn't been covered 110 times over the past 20 years. Exactly. Okay. Good answers. We all have been to those trainings that we've probably all even seen them. We've registered for them and been to maybe one or two over the years. If you're looking at this particular training title, fun. Now, is there any one of you all that doesn't like fun, that doesn't want to do something fun? I doubt that any of us don't want to have fun, but let's just say you've paid for this training and you've registered and you get up that Saturday morning and you get yourself ready. You get to the training and you sit down and you're all excited about the fun, when you realize the training is actually about rules and regulations. And you've already had one this year. Now, please understand, we understand that you have to have rules and regulations trainings, and we all need to know the ifs, ands, and buts about everything. But before you get there, you want to know what the training is actually covering. Okay. Your title does not have to tell every little detail about what your training is going to hold. But your title should tell something about what the training content is covering and should be easy for those looking at it to understand a little bit about what it'll be. The training title should reflect your workplace outcome, which is something we trainers should be able to do when we get something that the trainees, should be able to do when they get back to their workplace. You all have been through FET and creating training plans and workplace outcomes and training outcomes, so you understand that. For example, if your workplace outcome is that participants should be able to use age-appropriate art materials with toddlers, your title should reflect that. Some of us have been involved in early childhood education for several years, like one of our chat conversations was, and you know how hard it is to find a training that you have not had, possibly more than once or twice or 110 times over the past 20 years. It may even be harder to find a training that you get excited about. When was the last time you read about or heard about a training that you just had to take? You put it on your calendar, you wrote it down, you said, you're not going to miss this for nothing. Not for hours, but just because you were interested in it. Keep that in mind when you're giving your trainings a title. You want people first to know that what they're registering for, and you want to spark some interest in the content that you're going to be covering. Miss Bethany.
and I'm muted, so unmute myself. We are going to start off with doing a quick little poll. We're going to use the Zoom poll, so you don't have to go anywhere, but we're going to allow you to look at 2 different training titles, and we're not saying one's bad necessarily, but we do want you to pick which is the better of the 2 training titles for you to have for your training. So we will go ahead and get started. The first one. Okay, so you should be able to see that up now. So title 1, which is the better training title? Okay. And that question? And it is the first one, the Brigance Learning to Administer the Infant Toddler. And I will have to cheat or tattle on myself. I forgot to print out the full title names. And on my side, I don't get to see it after about 20 characters. But the Brigance one was the correct one. So good job. Okay, so what about our next title, which is the better training title? And correct, it was the second one, the one related to lesson planning. And our third one. And again, you guys got it. It was science in the preschool classroom, making sure. And then our last one. All right. And you guys were 100%. So the first one, math and everyday play area. Now we kind of did that. We did not do any trick questions. So most of the appropriate training titles were longer. That doesn't necessarily mean longer is always going to be better, because you still want it to provide some of that detail without being too lengthy at the same time. So I didn't put any of those into there, but that is a caution to still consider. Just because we were showing longer ones doesn't necessarily mean the longer it is always the best either. Here are just some other examples of some, again, better training titles. It's like drawing conclusions, simple art activities for all ages of children. You're touching upon what subject area you're going to be doing, what age range you're going to be doing, and also just giving them an idea of what they will be able to take back into their workplace. So I'm not going to read all those out loud. You guys can see them. And then these are some of the titles that have, and most of these have actually been pulled directly from ECE TRIS. There were some that were just listed as nursery rhyming or observing. Well, observing could mean so many different things, and you have no clue what age range it's going to cover and things like that. So again, just kind of make sure that your training title gives enough information to your participants that are registering for it, or who may not have registered for it, but are coming to attend because the director said, hey, you have a training this Saturday, and the first time they may see your title is when they walk into your room or join your Zoom call.
Okay. How would you describe your training? Should you include every little detail of the training in your training description? You will use a few more words with your description, sometimes a lot of words, a lot more words than in your title. You want your description to include major points. You want your description to give an overview to participants about what materials you will cover without actually going into the specific detail of everything. Your descriptions should include what you as a trainer expect in your training to leave the training with. What do you want them to capture the most? What's the most important points to you that you want to convey to the people attending your training? Depending on how much content you cover in the training, some descriptions may be longer than others to include all of that information.
All right, we're going to go ahead and use Annotate now. So again, if you've used it recently, you may know exactly where it is. If not, at the top of your screen, it should say you are viewing Bethany Hughes's screen. And there is a arrow that says View Options. Once you click it, a menu will drop down, and one of those options is Annotate. And then within the Annotate options, there's multiple things like text or stuff, but you can use the stamp, and you can choose any of the shapes that are there, but just choose one of your stamps. And then look at these two descriptions that we have up. So if you had a training and you were providing a description for your training, using your Annotate stamp, which is the better of the two descriptions we have shown? I'm starting to see shapes. Good job. And it is right for those that we've got there. During this training, participants will learn how to choose age-appropriate materials to place in the different centers for the preschool classroom. Participants will watch videos, brainstorms, and be asked to choose appropriate materials for their classroom. So again, you want to provide more than just that the training will teach choosing age-appropriate materials. That just doesn't provide enough of a description for your trainer, but also for anyone who's reviewing transcripts or reviewing a trust training record. If they're pulling your title and your description, that really doesn't tell them very many specifics as far as what that training actually covered. Okay. So we're going to do one more of that. So again, using that stamp, pick the better of the training descriptions.
Okay, for you that have already put your Annotate on, think about it and take a good look at the description on the left. What are some things we could add to that to improve upon what is already there? Is there anything else? Does that say it all? Or what else could you add to give more information to those who might be interested in taking the training? And you can add that in chat. Okay, age, good. Be more specific. Good answers. Anything else that you could add? Center areas, okay. Adding Kentucky standards as required by STARS. Good. What the person will come away with learning and examples of materials. Good answers. So you are seeing some of the things that you could add to make the description better than what we had. We can build on that group.
So now we're gonna be done with annotate. So I can't remember if it tells you guys to X out of it or not, but go ahead and make sure you click off of it because we're not gonna be using annotate now. But we are gonna move into breakout rooms shortly. Within each breakout room, we do want each team to identify a reporter because after we come back, we're going to have some time for you to share what your team decided as the final result. So for the reporter, we just kind of picked a generic question for you guys to ask when you get in your room and just determine who bought gasoline the most recently. And whoever bought gas the most recently becomes the reporter for their team. So you'll need to take notes and be able to then report back out to the large group. It will not be anything strenuous or for super long, but just to be aware that that will be happening. So for during the breakout room, before we actually move over, I am going to give you guys 2 minutes to work on this on your own as well. So each team, each breakout room will need to come up with a title, a good training title, and a good training description to follow along with that title. We have picked your subject, and that's going to be using math concepts throughout the child care classroom. And we will have a training coach in there to help remind you of some of the details, but you can also take a quick screenshot or a picture on your phone if you want, just to have a reminder of what this is. But I'm going to leave this up anyways, because like I said, I want you to go ahead and take 2 minutes on your own and just start thinking of using math concepts throughout the childcare classroom. What are some key words or some key parts you would want to have in the training title? What would be some key things you would want to have in the description? And then when you get into your breakout rooms, you can share your titles and descriptions with the other members. And then you guys can either pick one as far as, hey, we all really like that one, or you can come up with a group one to report back out to when we get done. So I'm going to go ahead and quit talking now and give you a few minutes to work on that on your own. All right. And then also just as a reminder, when you get to your room, make sure you pick your group reporter first. And that, again, that question was who bought gasoline the most recently? And I realized I forgot the question mark on this slide. I put a period, but I believe you guys are aware. So I'm going to go ahead and bump you guys over into breakout rooms. Hi, LaDonna.
Hey, our group was finished, so I wanted to come out and see your pretty face.
Aw, thank you. Okay, so did any group not get finished? Okay. So I'm guessing that meant every group got finished. So good job. Okay. I just wanted to make sure, because if we needed more time, we could do it. But if we're good, then go ahead and get this sharing again. All right, Glenna.
Okay. Let me find where we are here. Okay, we're gonna ask the groups to share their titles and their training descriptions. Every group will get a chance, but somebody, the reporter from group 1, go ahead and share your training title and description, please.
Okay, so our training title is Easy as 1, 2, 3, using math concepts throughout the preschool classroom. And our description is participants will learn to plan, design, and implement activities that engage children in all centers of the preschool classroom. Hands-on activities with loose parts and alignment with KELS will be discussed. Core content area 4, level 3.
You guys even went further than we were asking. Good job.
Good job. That was great. Now, the reporter for group 2.
Is that us? Is that me? Okay. Was that group 2? Are we group 2?
I think you were group 3, but
Okay.
that's okay.
Sorry. I'll wait till 3. Sorry.
I think we were group 2.
Yeah, Dawn's was group 2.
I didn't know what group we were. So our title was Math Everywhere, Using Numbers in Infant and Toddler Classrooms. The description was, in this training, participants will learn developmentally appropriate math concepts. In the infant toddler classroom, participants will learn ways to incorporate math concepts through play and routine care.
Very good. Group
All
3.
right, now Eamon, you can go.
So we were channeling Olivia Newton-John. So if anybody doesn't know who that is, you're way younger than I am. But we did Let's Get Mathematical, incorporating pre-K math concepts through activities, learning centers, and conversations. And the description was participants will learn what and how to guide math-related conversations with preschoolers and use math vocabulary, materials, and concepts throughout everyday pre-K activities.
Good.
Sounds
I
good.
was singing-
We
I was
spent a
singing
little bit
that.
of time figuring out matching outfits, but that's for another conversation.
Well, we hadn't thought about this beforehand, but just so we can also make sure we capture these, if you don't mind, to also go ahead and type these into the chat. So then that way we can save the chat and we have access to all those, because those all sounded like great titles and descriptions, and yet they were very different, but really encompassed across the board. So
And I have to admit, I was singing group 3's title. So
That was our goal. That was the goal.
should have known. And that was Julie's group, wasn't it?
Yes, but that wasn't my idea. However, that song is inspiration for something you might see at Trainers Institute. So
Well, then that group just fit well for you, Julie. So
yeah.
hard to have. Okay. All right. Then we're going to do one other share out thing. And this doesn't have to be the group reporter. Sorry, Glenn, I'm going to talk a little bit for you. This can be anyone within any of the groups. And again, you can either unmute and share, or if you feel more comfortable just typing in an answer. But just also kind of letting you guys have a chance to say what within that process. First off, we're going to do that. What caused the most trouble in the process? What was kind of difficult doing that as a group?
I'll say for our group, well, our recorder, Stacy, she did a great job, but she, first came out and said that education is not her background. She's kind of a tech person. So she didn't know if she would have as much input into these math skills that kids would have, So I guess if you look at it and you think, okay, just because you're a trainer, you're going to know how to write a description to pretty much anything. I mean, you obviously need to have some information on the topic that you're training on to write a description for it. And as far as the easiest thing, I would definitely say a title is easier to come up with than the description, because we kind of thought we did our description and then we kind of discussed that sometimes in descriptions, they also have like what you can expect out of the training as far as how it's going to be delivered, like if it's going to be interactive or if it's going to be, you know, like through small group discussions, blah, 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 we're going to do this. It kind of tells you how the setup is for the training. And sometimes those are included in descriptions, but you'd almost have to have your training planned and kind of go back and add that part to a description to kind of know those kind of details.
Anyone else from another group? Monica, I think you're talking, but you're muted.
I agree with April in that the title is easier to come up with. And I usually kind of come up with the whole process and then go back looking at it and do my description, because you really want to hit all the points that you're covering in your training. So usually my description is last, and maybe even my title.
And we're definitely not doing this today in connection with the training plan. So obviously training plans are still very important. And especially if you can do some of the worksheet stuff ahead of time to think about what skills and knowledge you're going to need to share with your participant, what your workplace and training outcomes are, then that kind of all combines into then your title and your description. So we kind of jumped the gun on that part of it. But again, we're not doing a training plan trainer connection.
Right.
We're looking at these parts, but that was very good points to put into that, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, come on. I know you guys were talking in your groups.
This is Sharon, and I'll just say for me, I'm kind of visual. So it helps for me to write it down or be able to look at it. So like a shared whiteboard would have helped me. That might just be me, but that would have kind of helped on the description part, especially because we had a lot of great ideas.
And that was one thing I thought about, but it was a bit too late to make changes to our breakout room plans. Because I'm the same way, Sharon. I am very visual. All right. All right. Anybody else have anything else that they would want to add as far as either what caused trouble during the process of coming up with a title and description today, or anything else that they felt was easy about the process? Okay.
Did everybody agree on to use somebody's individual title, or did you all come up with one together? How did that work out? Okay, April typed together. All right.
Together.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. The majority of people who registered for today's training stated that they are familiar with Kentucky AllStars and the STARS training requirements. This is just a reminder to everybody. If you do not title a training correctly or have enough information in your training description, while the participant will get the training hours for the training may not count towards required training points in Kentucky AllStars. And as trainers, we want to meet the needs of all of our participants and provide trainings that people specifically need. And we want them to count for the hours and the points and whatever our training attendees need. So that's another example that our titles and descriptions are very important. The wording of your description has to include a variety of things before the training will count for a requirement. For example, for professional learning and curriculum, instructional practices or teaching and learning training should address things like building children's skills, incorporating new learning practices, fostering child development, creating engaging environments, implementing curriculum, or developing classroom management skills. The intent is all about the teacher learning or staff learning new and better ways to teach the children. You may not know if your training is one that a center will be using for their All-Star points. It's always good to be thorough and descriptive when training on developmental screenings, curriculum-based assessment, and strengthening families. Okay. As trainers, we never want the lack of a few words or phrases to prevent our trainees from getting all the credit or points that they need from our training. With the change in regulation, participants cannot repeat trainings for 5 years. So with All-Stars trainings being required every 3 years, better titles and carefully worded descriptions are going to be very important.
Can I add something to that, Glenna?
Yes, you may.
One of the things that I've noticed as I've looked through trainings that people are offering, and I know that I'm just talking to a small group of people here, but a lot of people are putting on their training descriptions that it counts for All-Stars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not something that really should be happening. Us saying that it counts for All-Stars. I mean, I guess you could potentially, contact someone to ask if it would count for All-Stars, but just because you say that it counts for All-Stars doesn't mean that it does. And that's really gotten some people into some bad situations who are trainers, where they've said it counts for All-Stars and then they didn't have something in their training description and it didn't count. So I just want to put that caveat there. All of the things that you addressed are definitely things that would make it, that would help it to count for All-Stars, but it's really the raters that decide what counts for All-Stars, not us as individuals.
Thank you, LaDonna. And LaDonna is one of the TA specialists for across the state. So for anyone who may or may not be familiar with her, she definitely does a lot with the All-Stars, with the raters, and also child care aware. But she is definitely right. As trainers, you may think that your training is going to count for All-Stars, but you can't promise that to your participants, because if you are missing some of those components, it is up to the discretion of the raters whether that would actually then count for points for that center or not. So definitely also make sure you're utilizing your child care aware coaches. Reach out to your quality coach if you're a trainer and you have questions, like you have a good screening training that you're working on, and you want to just kind of make sure that it could potentially meet all the needs. Reach out, ask questions, make sure we can just kind of help you as much as possible as well. All right, any other questions about that?
So even if we get the description right, you're saying that we should not put that it counts for All-Stars because the rater may not choose that? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well,
that would
I'm
be
just
our
suggesting,
recommendation.
yeah,
Sorry,
I'm just suggesting or recommending, as somebody who looks at training a lot, to see if, does this count? Does this count? It would just be better if you did not put in there that it counted for All-Stars, unless you know that it does. I mean, if your descriptions are very clear, it's just a lot of people are putting things count for All-Stars, and then there's description, it doesn't meet that. And really, it's probably not that the training doesn't meet that. It's a problem with the description. So I'm not telling you to do it or not to do it. As Bethany just said, as a recommendation, it would be best if you didn't, unless you were sure that it actually met the requirements. We just can't say across the board, if you think it counts for All-Stars, put All-Stars on it. That's really what I'm saying, because it has to be vetted, through the raters. So, I mean, if you know it counts for All-Stars, I'm certainly not telling you can't do it. I mean, you're an individual trainer. You can choose, to list it if you want. I just don't want people to get upset when people put All-Stars on there and then their training description doesn't actually cover what All-Stars is asking for. Mainly that's happening with curriculum-based assessment, because people are unsure about what curriculum-based assessment is.
Right.
Thank you, Liz and LaDonna. Any other questions? If you do think of one, we can obviously touch base at the end as well. This is just a save the date, a reminder that we will have a Trainer Connection event next month as well. It will also be on a Tuesday from 2 to 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Title will be Unpacking the Tech Learn Conference, New Tech Trip Tips and Trends in Training. It's a lot of T's. I'm sorry, Dawn. So it's not open for registration yet, but again, your training coach will send out the details once everything's been set up. You can register for it. And again, we will have that on Tuesday, December 16th. So just be watching for more details about it to come. And then this is just a reminder of, if you haven't already, within HDI Learning, we have the website address down there, but also if you just go to hdIlearning.org and sign in, then you can, this is a course essentially that we have available on HDI. It is free, but it pretty much then hosts where we have all of our past Trainer Connection events. And this one will be uploaded within about a week's time. So if you also know of another trainer that may have been interested but couldn't join us today, remind them that they can go to the online community and look at it and review today's video. So that will be available to everybody. And then this is just the overall thank you. Thank you for attending today. We did utilize a lot of tech as far as more crediting how we got the presentation made today and how we created the unofficial start video. The other things that we didn't really credit was the video that I did show at the beginning. The information we provided under titles and descriptions actually came from registrants. When we asked you guys some of those questions, I pulled some of the common answers into that. And then also, again, some of the titles that we used, especially some of them that were not as detailed, we had actually pulled directly from ECE TRIS. Glenna had gone and done some digging and pulled out some training titles that are out there being used and being on records. And we've really got to start doing some quality improvement to make sure that we're getting better titles and descriptions out there, because it is more than just, it is good to we need to let the participants know what they're going to be there for, but it is also more of an after effect as well. It does go on to their training records, and it is looked at by raters. It's looked at by DCC. It's looked at by multiple people. So we really need to make sure that we've got some good quality titles and descriptions going on. Glenna, anything else you would like to add?
Nope. Thank everybody for coming. I hope you've gained something you can use in the future.
And if you do have any outline questions, again, we're still here. It's 2:54, so, but otherwise we have wrapped up for today. Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to attend today. We do appreciate you. Thank you for working so well in your breakout rooms and working on that group project. And we'll see you hopefully next month for the next Trainer Connection.